Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. Today we're here to talk not about FPL ways, we're here to talk about Fantasy World Cup, FWC. I don't know, what do we call it? It's not FPL, it's F what?
I don't know what the
The
on Twitter
abbreviation is.
I'm using the hashtag World Cup Fantasy, I think, which is a bit long-winded. So yeah, WCF maybe.
FWC, baby, here we go.
Yeah, that'll do.
Woo! Anyway, or maybe it's FFWC, Fantasy FIFA World Cup, but anyway, that's for another day. We're going to look at your team reveal, your current draft. I don't know, might change up to the deadline. There's obviously constant injury news coming out. With a worry about Denzel Dumfries, who was obviously highly picked a few days ago. I've heard that he might since be okay, but I haven't checked up on it.
Yeah.
I read something this morning that Diogo Costa's out from Portugal, who would have been a popular goalkeeper choice. So there's lots of changing things here, moving variables. So we're not going to hold you to this right up to the deadline, but this is where you're at right now.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're an FPL expert. You're not necessarily a world football expert. So expect some pelters.
Yes, please get the pelters in there. And absolutely, I am in no way an expert on this, which I'm actually quite looking forward to. With FPL, there's a bit of pressure to perform with the World Cup when I am hands up at a complete amateur. You'll know a lot more than me, John, being more of a world bigger knowledge on world football. So yeah, I've got my three England boys in and a few of the other big names and hopefully some good cheapos after a little bit of research.
Is it coming home?
We both hope so, don't we, John?
No, anything but. I hope it's like going home away elsewhere, not coming home.
Yeah, you get to support 31 teams at the World Cup, John. So you're lucky.
Yeah, Wales, USA, let's go, baby. Anyway, so I'm actually going to be in England to watch the USA game, which would be quite funny. But
nice.
I'll have to be like, I'll be in a pub full of like rowdy Englishmen, and I'll be like, if the USA score, I'll be like, oh, what a shame. Anyway, let's go and have a look. This is the World Cup site. And the way we're going to do this is you're going to build it from the back to the front, kind of like we did at the start of the season with the team reveals. Yeah. So we'll start off with, I suppose, your backup goalkeeper.
Yes, and again, pronunciations are not going to be my friend in this series at all. But Sergio Roche. Again, I don't know. With my team that I'm building, I have got a 1 million budget. And again, I want to know in the comments, the live comments and the comments after the fact as well, what people's tactic is in regards to playing goalkeepers or, when we play FPL, John, we normally have a cheap, Danny Ward, don't we? Or something like that. So I have gone for 4 million goalkeeper. And he seems like the best of the bunch. Like I said, by the time the deadline comes around, I might upgrade to, a 5 million playing goalkeeper. I'm not sure yet because this game is a bit different to FPL, isn't it? With the different, you can sub people in if people in your starting lineup don't do well and stuff like that. So it's just juggling that whilst juggling budget as well.
Absolutely. And who's going to be your starting goalkeeper?
So I've gone Jordan Pickford from England.
He likes it.
Yeah.
So Jordan Pickford, you think England, like, do you not think the USA could score? Maybe Wales get one, I get that. I think Southgate plays a very defensive game, doesn't he? But
yeah, I think with the first match day being Iran, I'm hoping for some, a clean sheet in that one. And after that, again, people correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm still learning the game as well, but I think there's 2 free transfers between match days. And then you can take you get a -3, not a -4 like an FPL if you do take additional ones. So I can potentially switch things up. And because I'm going to have a deep bench, and like I said, I possibly will upgrade my sub keeper. I don't necessarily always have to play him. But I think with Southgate, he does like to be defensive. He does like to try and win games with clean sheets, nick a game 1-0 in tournament football, maybe a few 0-0. So I can't see England being involved in, a 3-2 win or anything like that. I do think their games will be quite low scoring.
Do you think it'd be better to pick a goalkeeper from a team that's going to go deep in the tournament? Hey, I'm going to be making England jokes all week. I love it. You could just say Ireland aren't there and then you win. So, yeah.
Yeah. Took the words out of my mouth.
But Pickford, anyway.
I like it.
I like the pick. Go for it.
I was going to say, if England win the tournament, John, you're going to have to wear an England shirt for a day. That's your punishment.
If England win the tournament, I'll wear an England shirt for a day on stream. If England don't win the tournament, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to make you do it. And yeah, okay. If England win, I'll wear an England shirt. Now, Pickford and goal. I don't know. I kind of look at that, and yeah, I do. Pickford won't be my goalkeeper, I'll put it that way. But I think he's a very viable option. I just think there's some other teams in other groups that have very, very good fixtures. It's a shame to see. Go for it.
Sorry, John. I was just going to say, the other problem with the game at the minute in its current state is, I don't know if you've noticed this yourself, but this I've seen a lot of noise about this on Twitter and WhatsApp groups, and myself, I've noticed this, that not all the players have actually been added yet. Yeah. So that makes picking a team a little bit difficult. And also certain players like Reece James is available to be picked when obviously he's injured, and players like Jared Bowen. So the game itself needs a bit of work over the next few days, hopefully. So yeah, just thought I'd throw that in there as well.
Because I heard news that Diogo Costa could be injured now. I don't know where I've seen it. I don't know how. Apparently it's doubtful. He's doubtful for the Super Eagles friendly. Now, it might mean that he's actually okay, but my point is this. I think Portugal look great defensively. I think Cancelo is also a great pick, but if you go and look at Portuguese goalkeepers, Costa's the only one that actually shows up, which means if he is injured, I don't know who would be their backup. Is it like Rui Patricio or something? I don't actually know who the backup is. Like you can't actually select the backup. So if I wanted to go Portuguese defensive stack, it's very hard to do that. But anyway, enough on goalkeepers. Yeah. Talk us through your defenders in terms of. Go for it. We have a very small delay, so we'll try and manage that. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I was just going to say that because I have got that 1 million in the bank, I do want to upgrade myself goalkeeper and the Portugal keeper. You know, when we get news a bit near the time on who is their number one, I can then move for them based on injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, but yeah, was you saying about defenders then?
Yeah, I was going to say build them just from best to worst.
Okay, best is probably Cancelo, and then I've got Van Dijk in. We were texting, weren't we, John? And you said about the Dumfries injury. It was Dumfries again.
He might be.
I'll be watching for news. Yeah, I'll be watching for news there and possibly switching back because I think he is the more attacking option, isn't he? But Van Dijk, you know, we know what he's like for the Premier League. I think he can pop up with a goal from a corner. So I'm happy with either of those two. Next in line price-wise would be Trippier at 5 million. Again, he's going to have his share of set pieces probably, in terms of maybe some corners, maybe some free kicks, maybe some assists from open play. He's probably England's informed fullback, so he might play left back if Southgate doesn't fancy Luke Shaw because we haven't got many left backs, or he might play right back because there's no Reece James, and Trent obviously isn't a big favourite of Southgate. I think Trippier's fairly nailed on.
Oh, I was going to say to you though, you think he's nailed on. I would say I think he's nailed on maybe for the first fixture or two, but I feel like Trent gets a chance in a game, so I would worry that
maybe
you have an option there that will maybe miss a game, but will play and will also likely play 68 minutes in a couple of games for Trent to come on at the end if they're winning 2-0, 3-0 to give him a spin out. You know. Maybe I'm wrong. I really rate Trippier. He's been one of the standout defenders in Europe this season. But I just worry from like a team structure and not how easy the group is. They have a couple of easy enough fixtures, but I think it's actually a relatively tough group. My point is I think Trippier's minutes might be an issue, but maybe people just disagree. Maybe he's a 90-minute man. I just worry about Trent.
Maybe. It is hard to know. I think Trent, like you said, will get some minutes here and there. But I think with Luke Shaw's not been in amazing form this season. And Trent even hasn't, Trent's normally in great form for Liverpool and he still can't really get a game for England. That's not the case right now. So I do feel that if Trent was to get a game, then I could see Trippier shifting over to left back maybe. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong. But with the tactic of having a stronger bench, maybe I can get away with it. Again, I'm so much an FPL player that I'm almost picking an FPL team, but I have to try and, tell my brain that to sort of log into this sort of World Cup mode, and therefore hopefully my decent bench will bail me out should Trippier miss out. So yeah, I'm not too worried about rotation there because, like I said, I've got those backups, and I do think Trippier is relatively now for England.
I have to say though, when I look at the price structure of this game, you can definitely build a top team like compared to FPL. When you think like Van Dijk, Trippier, and Cancelo, arguably three of the better defenders in this game, are all coming in at less than 6 million, and then you look at FPL and look at the Trents and the Robertsons and the what have yous. It's a case of, I think, like, even when we go into midfield and forward, I feel like people are going to be able to put out an absolute bitchin' first 11, and then the bench, might actually have a bit of depth to it. But yeah, I think Cancelo's a great option. Trippier's a great option. Van Dijk a great option for a clean sheet. It's a shame there mightn't be. If Dumfries is back, you'd obviously switch for the more hopefully attacking returns. Who's your what formation are you going to play?
So I've gone 3-4-3. So my two cheap bench defenders are players I don't know an awful lot about, but doing some research. It's the Danish defender, John. You're gonna have to help me with pronunciation. It's like spelt Mail.
Mile, I would say, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe. I think him and just a sneak peek on one of my midfielders, Olsen. They've both got 5 goals each in qualifying. I saw on Twitter. Apologies, I can't remember the tweet now. Otherwise, I would credit them. But yeah, I saw a tweet about those two, 5 goals each, good budget enablers, basically. So yeah, Joachim Mail. So someone correct us in the comments about the pronunciation. But yeah, he's 4.5 million, Danish defender. And then I've got Sosa, who's 3.5. So again, just cheap. And again, with a little bit of research on Twitter there's a couple of FPL accounts I was looking at actually, who was providing some good stuff. Just seemed like the best budget option. And I don't know enough about these, the real cheaper assets for World Cup Fantasy. So I'm taking a leap of faith with some Twitter research here.
No, I like it. You're going for your big 3 and then you're going budget. Your first midfielder is filled in, Andreas Skov Olsen. I believe he's playing out of Bruges and scoring for fun. Unless there's a different Skov Olsen, but there's a Skov Olsen at Bruges going absolutely balubas over there. Scoring for fun,
like I said, he's done well in qualifying as well, and he's just that 6 million price tag. You've got to have some budget enablers in there, haven't you? Rather than you can't necessarily fill a team from Argentina, Brazil, England, France, etc. So yeah, he's in there, and again, taking a bit of a leap of faith based off what I'm seeing on Twitter. Don't watch an awful lot of him. The other midfielders I've got, who have I got? Steven Bergwijn for the Netherlands. Again, possibly playing out of position as more of a forward, but he's down as a midfielder. And again, budget enabling 7 million. There were some midfielders I prefer who are a bit more expensive, but we can't squeeze them all in if you do want that expensive strike force like I do. And then we've got Jamal Musiala from Germany, obviously very good player. Federico Valverde from obviously Real Madrid. Obviously, I do know more about his form this season.
Yeah.
So I kind of just put him in without doing any research, and then again looking at some research on Twitter, a lot of people like him as well. So that sort of cemented him as a pick. And yeah, I think on my bench midfielder again, normally in FPL I'd go as cheap as possible, the likes of Andreas Pereira in FPL normally, but with this one I've gone for Leandro Trossard, who's 5.5 mil. And again, it's about having that depth on the bench that I can bring him in. Again, John, you or someone in the comments can tell me how nailed he is, but at that price point, I couldn't see anyone better than Trossard. Is he nailed for Belgium, etc.? I don't know.
I don't think he's nailed, but I think Lukaku being out's obviously huge for him. Did they have a friendly very recently? Do they have a friendly coming up? Let me just check. I think Belgium might have a friendly before the World Cup, but I could be wrong. It feels weird to have a friendly that close. No, they do. They're playing against Egypt on the 18th, so we'll get a lot of information then around who's going to start. Because I think, if we look back at their last game, they started, Batshuayi started up top, but did he come off? You see, Charles de Ketelaere there sniffing about too. Trossard coming on maybe for Eden Hazard there, but Hazard would be nailed for Belgium. So I do worry about his minutes, to be honest. But I
think that's why it's priced at 5.5.
Yeah. That friendly in 2 days' time will tell you a lot. But I like it. I think Steven Bergwijn's been absolutely outstanding for Ajax this season. Jamal Musiala at even his age is doing it for Bayern Munich. Be interesting to see how he slots into the Germany team and does there. Valverde's been on fire for Madrid. You just worry about how strong maybe the nation is. But yeah, I think when I'm looking at this, it's all about targeting the fixtures, because you do obviously get quite a few transfers. I believe, aren't we getting 2 before each match day in the groups, and then we get, is it 3 or 4 unlimited before the round of 16? So
and then you're right, it does it does up, later on in the tournament when teams are obviously going to drop out in the quarters and semis, so your team could be decimated. They are going to give you like 4, 5, 6 free transfers as the tournament progresses.
Yeah. So like we're gonna
But
be
yeah,
able to rejig it all. I think it's about targeting points early. It's a shorter form competition where I don't feel like building for the longer term makes much sense because a lot of these players will be going after 3 games. There'll be upsets, and then if they're not going after 3, they'll be going after 4, and even in the 4th game they'll be playing harder opposition. So I think trying to get as many points on the board early doors with the mismatches of Messi against Saudi Arabia or whatever it happens to be, I think that's the play. So I'll be looking very much at group fixtures.
It's like if we think our minds back just a few weeks in FPL, John, we were only looking at, from game week 14 onwards, for example, we were only looking at 3 fixtures, weren't we? Game week 14, 15, 16 for FPL. This is quite similar in regards of we only need to look at the group games, because after that we get effectively a wild card and limited transfers, whatever you want to call it, and we can refresh everything. So I absolutely echo everything you just said.
I'm wondering there, like, I'm just looking at your Musiala pick, and in the comments there, fair play to him. Russell Kelly coming in saying Musiala's a bit too much of a rotation risk for him. And I just thought I'd pull up other German midfielders if you're that way inclined. Leroy Sané up at 9 million. Royce, I'd be interested to see what sort of minutes he's getting for Germany. But Kimmich is a fun one, right? And I don't know. I'd need to look at it. The issue with Kimmich is that, sorry about my dog, that for Germany here now, because they have an injury in the right back position, who is it? Is it your man Hernandez or whoever it is? They have an injury there. He might be brought into right back from his sort of hold midfield role that he'd usually play, where he'd get a lot of action in the game. And the reason I bring that up is because midfielders are getting a point for every 3 tackles, 3 tackles in the game is quite a lot, but and even just key passes is the big one. Every 2 key passes you'll get a point.
Yeah.
And the reason I would just go and look at Kimmich's stats, because I know for Bayern Munich he's set piece monster. He'll be on set pieces for Bayern or for Germany. And I don't know how many key passes you'll rack up from sets. Do you know? Do they generally rack up with Opta if you're crossing a ball in and someone gets their head on it in the 18-yard box? Is that like a key pass? Because Kimmich
I think
spraying balls like.
Yeah, and I think a key pass is defined as anything that leads to a shot, I think. But again, this is where it differs from FPL, where we have to think about, forwards, for example, get a point for every 2 shots on target. So those players who pepper the goal, like a Darwin Núñez, we know for Liverpool likes to, he misses a lot of, he doesn't score as many as maybe he should, but he gets a load of shots away, doesn't he? Harry Kane's possibly another one. But again, just looking at some stats, so we possibly should be thinking like that. I picked this based on basically with assists and goals still being the main source of points in my head. Anyway, that's how I've kind of gone about it. But I think I need to have another look at this and, like you said, look at those deeper stats and see if I can get those points in for players who do smash the ball on target or make key passes or make tackles. Defensive mids, John, might be a bit better in this tournament if you get. A Granit Xhaka comes to mind. He can pop up with the odd goal, the odd assist, but can also make a load of tackles. Maybe he could do well. Someone that, maybe not Xhaka, but that type of player is what I'm trying to get at.
I think there has to be, I'm sure on Hub there'll be articles going through kind of the meta picks and what we should be looking at, but it is hard because it's a different matrix and you have to bring different things into account. I don't think anyone's going to be getting enough tackles to justify picking a defensive midfielder over someone with a high upside of an attacking midfielder, but key passes are things that very creative players and creative dominant teams can rack up, and the likes of a Kimmich I know will pop up with assists at this tournament. Don't think he'll be too much of a goal threat. The risk is that he drops to right back. But anyway, I don't know why I'm bringing Kimmich up. I think it's because in other World Cup fantasy games or other fantasy games I play, he is the guy. He's like the best guy. So it's a case of, in FPL, he mightn't be a great pick, but in World Cup fantasy with these other metrics of tackles and key passes, is he? I don't know. I need to go and do the digging.
Well, John, the man on the thumbnail for this, who was in my original draft, by Tim Kidd this morning, KDB, De Bruyne. Obviously, we know how creative he is for Man City and for Belgium, creating chances. So he's going to rack up points, even if the strikers don't end up scoring those chances. Yeah. And we've seen it for Man City as well. He's good defensively. He gets back, he tackles. He's all action, isn't he? So De Bruyne, I'd love him in my team, but at the minute, I can't afford it unless we're going to move on to my forwards in a minute. I get a cheaper forward. But is it better? Like, I've kind of convinced myself in my head now, based off what you were saying for Kimmich, that actually De Bruyne's that player, but he can also get plenty of goals, plenty of assists, plenty of key passes, plenty of tackles. De Bruyne could be the perfect player for this game,
You see, I wonder though, from like a strategy for this competition, are those like metrics traps to an extent, where if you try and focus on the key passes and the tackles and whatever the shots on target and what have you for these other players. I think I've said what have you a few times. Very posh of me. It's I think like we're not looking for a couple of points here and a couple of points there. We're looking for high upside, but then maybe that just increases the upside in certain dominant players. Players that will get goals, will get assists, will get clean sheets, but will also make key passes. Like defenders on sets might make tackles, might get key passes, like wing backs, and they might actually get clean sheets, and they could get returns. So with all the, well, mind you, actually, maybe I'm wrong, because maybe defenders don't get the same for tackles, do they? No, they actually don't. They get key
it's midfielders.
It's midfielders get the key passes and tackles. So there we go. There's a lot to the game.
I think, no, you're right. I think what is potentially a trap is if you did focus on, say, tackles. But in, say, when we're playing FPL, John, we are looking for those players who create chances, aren't we? In the expected XA and XG. If a player is taking a load of shots on target, in theory, they are the ones who are likely to score goals.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a benefit if you target those metrics, because they feed into or they complement goals and assists. Key passes is a good indicator that someone's going to get assists. Shots on target, likewise for goals. So it's just an added bonus if they don't quite get the goal, or if Kane gets 1 goal, 5 shots on target, it's going to be almost like it's almost like getting 2 goals in a way. Not quite, but you know what I mean.
Speaking of, I'm going to guess you're going for Harry Kane.
Yeah. I think, like, not just playing with my heart, obviously an England fan, so I did want the England players in there. But I think even without that, I think given the fact they play Iran the first game and someone like Kane is, proven at a World Cup level, I think it does make sense to go for Kane. You could build a team without Kane, go cheaper, get De Bruyne in midfield. I get that. And maybe that is the play. But yeah, I'm going with my heart. I think I did look at the England midfielders, but I'm just not really sure on, I'd personally play Phil Foden, for example, if I was Southgate, but does Southgate necessarily play him?
Yeah.
It's a bit up in the air. Same with someone like Saka. I'd like to play him if I was England manager. Will Southgate? I just don't know. So Kane's on penalties, main man for England. Iran first game. I think it makes sense having him in.
I like it. Fair play. And are you going, did you say 3-4-3?
Yeah, and then my other 2 strikers are fairly expensive as well. Mid-price with Darwin Núñez, and then more expensive with Messi. I do like the look of the Argentine Martinez, Martinez, John.
Yeah, I got that wrong on the stream before earlier this season. Lautaro is that one. Lissandro is the United one, isn't it?
Yeah. You should be getting that wrong, John. You're a world expert.
I get out of here.
What was I going to say? So yeah, I think he is a little bit cheaper, and I have seen again on Twitter people doubling up on those 2, and I considered that, but I've just gone for Darwin Núñez instead. And again, Messi's a bit of a, I play FPL so seriously that I'm happy to play this with just vibes, just like players I like, and having a bit of fun with it. And I'm a big Messi fan, and I just want Messi in. Could a cheaper Argentine forward score more points than him? Maybe Messi will play a more, he runs games, doesn't he, nowadays, and doesn't necessarily, he still scores goals, of course, but he doesn't necessarily score hat-tricks every week like he did in that 90 goal in that one year. What was it, like 20? Can't remember what year, but you know what I mean. However, I don't care. I just want Messi in, just think he's amazing. And with those underlying key pass, the points for key passes is always going to help Messi and stuff like that. I just want Messi in. So he's just in. He's possibly captain. I need to look into captaincy a bit more because, again, you can change captaincies per day, John, with maybe I pick Kane as my captain. If he blanks, I can then change to Messi if I want.
It's about looking at the match days, isn't it? Or not the match days, the days they actually play the matches within the match day. So that you can switch to the captain.
What do you think you do with your captain, John, if they say, if they score 1 goal? I think you'll roll the dice and go for, if Kane gets an okay return, 1 goal, a couple of shots on target, I think you're the type of fantasy manager, and I think I am, to be fair, that I would rather roll the dice on, no, sod this, I'm going to go for a Darwin Núñez and hope he gets a hat-trick or whatever.
I think it's a case of, it depends on the fixture, if it's going to be, I don't know, let's say you've got your Kimmich, for example, who not many people are going to pick. I'm not even, your Musiala, right? I'm just picking a player because I know he'll have a tough fixture. The week he plays Spain, if before that, on that week, that's just an example that might never happen, I'm pulling out of my arse. if you've got like a Kane in your team who has a goal and then a German player who's playing Spain, you mightn't roll the dice. But if they're playing one of the lower teams or a team that's at the bottom of the group and's already conceded 14 goals, then you'll be like, all right, let's roll the dice. And I also think it's worth rolling the dice in a competition like this. Again, it's a shorter form tournament. What are you playing for if you're, well, unless you're in your own wee mini leagues and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that, whatever.
Yeah.
But like if you're actually trying to get a high rank or you're trying to win this thing, it's all duck or no dinner. It's roll the dice. It's big scores required. So
yeah,
one goal captain mightn't be enough whenever people like Messi are playing Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Kane's up against Iran. One goal, there will be hat tricks in the groups. So
yeah,
maybe one goal isn't enough. And I just want to point out something in the comments there from Alex Micah, because it's something I was actually in my head already going to discuss this, and it's something that I actually think the opposite. And I think it's great that there's so many disagreements because it'll lead to different people picking different front threes and midfielders. It's Messi over Mbappe, he says, with a question mark. I honestly can't see Messi getting many goals. He'd be more of a playmaker. And the way I look at this is, I disagree massively. Messi is 100% nailed on my team. I think Messi's going to be dominant. I think his opening 2 fixtures are incredible. I think whenever you look at the Mbappe, actually, I think to save $1 million on Mbappe's, like his group, it isn't the hardest, but they've got Denmark there. They've lost their last two matches against Denmark. Denmark are going to play the low block and try and get them on the counter. I think Denmark could get a result against France. When I did my little prediction, I actually predict Denmark to top the group, which is kind of counterintuitive, a bit mad. If you're ever going to get a tournament tree right, there's going to be a couple of upsets. That was the upset I pick, and yes, I know the odds are against it, but my point is, I love Mbappe. At PSG, Mbappe is insane. At France, Mbappe is also insane. I just worry about France's form over the last 6-12 months. Benzema there, been in and out of training recently, whatever else. Mbappe they're up against, and it's that Denmark group. I think you want players that can dominate 3 group games and go far in the tournament. I worry for France personally, but I understand that might not necessarily be the most popular viewpoint. But I think that's the beautiful thing about this World Cup. I don't think there's an outright winner. I think Brazil will win personally, or Argentina, but I think there's a scope for a lot of debate, whereas maybe with FPL, there's quite, I don't know, maybe at this stage, the debates are quite, I don't know if linear is the word. There isn't as much to debate, whereas now I feel like this is wide open. There's so many decisions to be made and so many top players. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. 100% I agree with that. And France have got a lot of injuries as well. And also your point from earlier, John, when you were saying about this is short form tournament, FPL game, whatever, compared to FPL. Like you say, in FPL, we can kind of chip away and be patient, wait for the second half of the season when there's double game weeks and you can catch up rank, blah, blah, blah. There isn't time to do that in this tournament. It is, go hard or go home. And yeah, in FPL, again, I'm aiming to get like a top 10k rank or whatever. Whereas in this, you might as well go for broke. If it ends up going wrong, I don't really care. If I end up being bottom out of my mates, I don't care. I'm going all out to try and get a big win and try and finish up as high as I can in the world. So yeah, go big or go home, I think, in this tournament for sure.
Go big or go home. And we'll sign off with that, Wes. There's your team. Pickford, Cancelo, Van Dijk, Trippier, Andreas Skov Olsen, Bergwijn, Musiala, Valverde, Kane, Nunez, Messi. On the bench, Sergio Rocha, I think it is, Trossard, Sosa, and Joachim Mail I'm going to go for. Thanks a million for being here. Good luck for the tournament. People can find you at FPL Heisenberg. They can find me at John Nellis. We're going to have a couple more experts on this week. And if you want to get lots of articles, check out Hub. There's also a £1,000 or euros, I think it's pounds, members only league. So you can sign up with 30% off using the link in the description. And if not, go over there anyway for all your articles and everything else. Have I missed anything, Wiz?
That's it, I think. But yeah, with that mini league, there is a second prize and a third prize of free membership as well. But yeah, the main prize is £1,000 for the winner of that. If you're a Hub pay member, there's a tweet you can retweet about it as well. So yeah, all good.
And that's also just alert because there'll be a lot of members watching this, so make sure you go over and enter that. But guys, look, thanks a million for being here. We'll see you soon. Best of luck. I'll be back tomorrow and then back again the day after with different experts to talk through